There's two reasons why you're listening to this today. One, you know me and support me. Two, you're a nosy old shy. Either way, I'm happy to have you. You're listening to episode 9 of the Unedited Podcast.
Do you think you can handle it? Do you think you could? Do you think you could handle it? Do you think you could?
So this episode is dedicated to Jacob Sutherland Carey. 2nd of June 2017, Jacob was born at 22 weeks and he is the son of my previous guest, Claire Carey. You might have heard Claire mention that she had 5 children at home, but in actual fact she is the mother to 6 children. And it's only when the mic was down that we started to talk about Jacob and the experience and the loss that she suffered. And it's because the mic was down that I wanted to talk about it. It's never a subject I thought I would speak about on the podcast because I've never experienced, thankfully, the loss of a child or the loss of an infant. She has, and she shared that with me. And thankfully, she has decided to allow me to share that with you. This episode is a snippet of a conversation that we had, discussing our experience and what she went through. And the intention that I have with sharing this with you today is that it creates an awareness to allow women to speak more freely about the loss of their infants and the loss of their children, to not be afraid of the awkward atmosphere that they might create by bringing that to somebody. Everybody deserves to be counted and every name deserves to be mentioned. So although this episode is dedicated to Jacob, it's in memory of every infant ever lost, every woman that has ever suffered in silence, for every family member that asks, what if? I hope this helps. So just to touch back on loss and how it's moulded you and stuff, you've had many losses. You've lost your mum, your dad, your brother, and you've lost a child.
Yeah. So in 2017, I had a little boy, Jacob. Basically, I had Aaron, Nathan and Shay was like the dream baby in 2016. Right. So I thought, I definitely want another baby straight away.
Yeah.
So I got pregnant pretty quick and everything was going grand, I thought. And at 22 weeks, I had a bit of a bleed and I went in and they said the baby had been dead a few weeks, unfortunately. Now, I know that's probably very triggering for some people to be getting into that, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's an interesting thing though, because when I asked you how many children you had, you said you had 5 babies at home, and you make a point of saying that you have 5 babies at home.
Do, yeah.
So it's so important for, what's your baby's name?
Jacob.
So it's so important for Jacob to be counted.
Yeah.
And like for anybody that's listening to this podcast, because like infant loss is such a big thing.
Yeah.
And it's like people don't really want to talk about it because they're nearly afraid of how they're going to make other people feel.
100%.
So you don't want to feel like awkward about it. But you should absolutely talk about it. And I think that the fact that we are talking about it, it will be really like helpful to so many people. Like instantly, I know so many people already that would appreciate the fact that you're.
Yeah. Well, something I did learn from my nana was she had twins that died years ago, but she always counted them as part of our family. So we always said that, well, my nana has 6 kids and she had twins that died. You know, so it was important for my nana's family to make sure that her 2 boys were always part of the family. So equally, it's important for us to make sure that Jacob is always counted as part of our family. Yeah. So as you said, I will say I've 5 at home. But if somebody asked me the question specifically, how many kids have you got? I would say I had 6, but I've 5 at home.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have to forget that I had him. Like, he was here and he was an important part of our lives for the shortest period that he was here.
And like from the moment that you find out that you're expecting a baby, you instantly have a connection, an idea of what your life is going to be like. And for that to then change in a moment. And to have that empty loss.
It was horrendous. Like, it definitely the worst loss. Like, I know it's hard to kind of categorize what has happened like with loss, but like it was a different level. It was a different grief. It was very difficult because you're it's what you could have had. It's everything. Like, it was just so hard to process. Like, it was the hardest thing to process. Like, if anything, I know you're saying about me being positive and all, but if anything would have brought me to breaking point, that
It was
was the
that
thing.
experience,
Oh,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was looking at Shay, who was only 14 months, and I was like, how do I go on? How do I live my life? And I think that's something that I've learned about not thinking too far ahead. And that's what something I'd say to people who are going through a loss is, don't think, how can I live my life? How can I go on? Just do it day by day, because
Yeah.
you can't, like that's what'll break you, thinking,
Yeah.
how can I live how can I, go through their birthday? How can I?
And do you do anything on those days, his birthday, do
Yeah,
you
just
mark it, or
just really, we talk about them, and
Yeah.
we go to the graveyard, and they're kind of the little things. Like, I suppose we're still really in a grieving process for that, for Jacob, because we still don't have a headstone.
Right.
That's one thing. Now, my partner John is constantly at me saying, we need a headstone. We just buy, I have the money there, we'll get the headstone. But it's, to me, it's very final.
Final, I
And
knew it, yeah.
I can't do that part.
Yeah,
Even though
yeah.
it's like 5 years. But even
Because
it-
I suppose
yeah.
with Jacob, like, you're carrying him with you all the
Yeah.
time, and you always will.
Yeah. You look
So,
at the other kids,
yeah.
like, I had 2 girls after him.
Yeah.
And like, that's the thing, you had to take your blessings. Like, and I'm like, would I have even had the 2 girls if he was still here? And like, Molly came next, and absolutely the rainbow child. She's a whirlwind. She's every bar of me, actually.
Right.
She looks like me. She's an attitude. She's a confidence about her. She's going to do great things.
Yeah.
Would we have even had them, if Jacob was still here? So you kind of...
It's a million, like, what would have been, or
yeah. Yeah.
what
yeah.
ifs, isn't it? Like that so you're saying about grieving process, I'd imagine that will never go away, because each
Yeah.
year you'll imagine he would have
Of
been this
course.
age, and
And he would
what would he have looked
Exactly.
like,
And the bigger the kids are getting, you're kind of looking, going, well, he would have slotted in here, or,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
you think about it all the time. I don't think, my nana still talks about her twins, so it's obviously something that never leaves you. One thing that I said on my last pregnancy on Nancy, I was saying to my nana, I don't know now if I'm ready to finish up having kids, and I don't have that feeling like that I'm finished. I mean, Nana said, that'll never leave you. That feeling will never go, because
Right.
you're always feeling like, is there something missing,
And is she saying that because of your loss of Jacob, or
Yeah.
just as a mother, like?
she just thinks because of losing him that
You've-
I'll always have that feeling that I need to fill a gap, which
I
I've never.
totally get that,
Yeah,
actually. Yeah.
yeah.
Like, for example, I have a daughter, and I've never experienced, I've never lost any children. I had a miscarriage, thankfully. And, but I really, really wanted my daughter, like, from the minute, like, she was even an idea.
Yeah.
And I know now that she's here, even though, like, life is a bit crazy with her. But I know she's destined for
Yeah.
siblings, and that I will
Yeah,
have
yeah.
other children. So I know that they're there. Like, it probably makes no sense, but I know, like, it's like me body. I know there's a place, or there's space for
Yeah.
more children. So I suppose when you're experiencing a loss, it was just like you never got to that part with him. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
yeah.
it's like a yawning sort of, is it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's kind of that feeling, like,
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm actually delighted that we decided to talk about Jacob. I'm very sorry for your loss, and I really appreciate you sharing your story here, because I know, and it's so sad that you can't openly just talk about him lightly and freely, and
Yeah.
talk about that situation without worrying about how awkward other people are going to feel. And hopefully with more awareness and
Yeah.
more chats and stuff, people feel like that
Exactly.
they can share their losses, or share their children's, and
yeah.
honour their names. So
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm delighted we spoke about him. So after Jacob was born, you had Molly.
Yeah.
So what was it like then? How different was it towards your previous pregnancies? Like, because I'd imagine you had all this fear and...
Yeah. So, like, had 4 babies at that stage. So, you know, on Jacob, I would have been quite confident about your pregnancy. And you think,
Yeah.
oh, I'm grand, you know everything. And, you know, like, it's fine. And then it was a complete different ballgame on Molly. Like, the fear every single week. For the first while, I was getting scans every week. When I got to a certain, I can't remember whether it was after 12 weeks, they scanned me every week till 22 weeks. And I was in the early pregnancy unit and all those sorts of things. I actually didn't go to the even though I had appointments in the early pregnancy unit, I didn't go.
Right.
Because I was afraid of what they were going to say, you know. And then, like, every week in the build up to, so Jacob was born at 22 weeks. So every week in the build up of that, I was thinking, right, well, they said he had died a few weeks before. So what about now? What about this week? And every single week. Of course, when you can feel your baby moving, that's the main thing. Like, you know, that was the big thing for me. Once I could feel the baby moving.
But, like, in some cases, that can take a really long time to kick in.
I know.
You know,
yeah.
like, depending on where the baby is placed.
Exactly.
Like,
And that's what I would have thought with Jacob. And even, like, some of the little things that I thought were little kicks, and then that's what it was. Like, it wasn't what I thought it
So
was.
after the 22-week mark, did you start to get a little bit, or were you still very nervous?
Like, it wasn't a great pregnancy. Like, I still kept thinking in the back of my mind, something's going to go wrong. You know, I suppose, like, yeah, it was the whole pregnancy up until the very end, actually. Then I relaxed. And my partner, John, he was the opposite. So at the very end, he thought, you know, this is the part, we know there's a baby and the baby's perfect. What if something goes wrong now, right at the end?
Yeah.
So he was panicking at the end, but I was like, no, I've grown this baby. This baby's healthy and it's coming.
Yeah.
Now, say when she was coming. She shot out like a bat out of hell. I was
Did she?
an hour and 20 minutes or something.
She's nearly like, I'm grand.
Yeah,
Relax.
that's exactly what she was like.
Yeah.
But and then I was grand, like, you know, I came home and John was like, geez, you're in the best frame of mind after all the kids on Molly, because I was just like, she's here, she's safe, I've done it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
She's
Did
healthy.
that relax you for your following pregnancy?
No.
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 Do you know what though? Even like I said, thankfully I haven't experienced anything like that. But your nerves, first time pregnant, like your absolute nerves. I remember, like, had to get to 12 weeks, couldn't tell a soul, wouldn't even tell
know.
me bestest friend I was pregnant, because I know I think I really needed her. You know, I was after losing my nanny, and I needed her so much. So I just didn't want to tempt fate at all. I was like, no, don't say anything.
Yeah.
So I got to the 12 weeks and that was grand. But I didn't really relax now at all. I was very, very nervous.
Yeah.
I was nervous. And then when she came, so I was nervous right up, saying, I just need to get her here. And I had a bit of a traumatic birth. And eventually she got here and she's deadly. Mm-hmm. But when she was born, then I was like, okay, right, I need to keep you alive for 6 months, they say. You know, like, I was like, so I used to be in, like, checking her all the time, and just the nerves. So I think once I got her to the 6 month mark, and I was running into COVID as well now.
Yeah.
She was only 3.5 weeks and I was into forced lockdown.
Yeah.
My husband had to go to work. I was on my own here with a baby. I had no help, no support. I was like, had to figure it out this year. In a way, it was amazing. Like, she only fell asleep on me today. She's 2.5 now, on the couch while I was taking me lunch, and I decided to just sit and let her snuggle, and we had a little rest. And I remembered that time, all them days where I just had to sit on the couch and let her snuggle, and I thought, look at her now, like, she's half my size. Do you know, like, it's just, like, it's treasuring it. But after the 6 months, I was like, oh, shite, now I have to stay alive. Do you know, like, so I suppose, like, the whole thing is just a whirlwind of emotions, isn't it?
Oh God, yeah. It's very hard. It's brilliant. It's the most amazing thing you can do with your body. Like,
when you think of,
it's unbelievable what you can do. But
it's unfortunate though, the nerves, because I had a client in who's on her first baby as well.
Yeah.
And she's 26 weeks and she's very, very nervous, you know, like, about the whole process. And it can take away from it.
Oh,
The
definitely.
nerves, you know, like
Definitely, yeah.
It's a really hard one because you're so nervous about it that you're missing out on all of the incredible
course, of
things
course.
about pregnancy.
Yeah, yeah. I know, it's unfortunate, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
but
When you think of all we've to deal with,
I know.
and then they come out like ungrateful little shites.
Or mad. They're probably at home now wrecking me house and wrecking John's head, I'd say.
Would they not be all in bed now?
Well, they should be. And they
Yeah.
should be asleep. But we shall see.
We shall see. So there you have it. That was Claire's experience, and how amazing was she to share that with us today. And she enjoyed talking about it, and I enjoyed listening. So talk about yours, and if you want to mention your child, please do. And if you want to share your loss, definitely do, because it can be so amazingly, incredibly helpful. And everyone deserves to be counted, and every person deserves to be supported. In true fashion, I share a nanny mantra on nearly every podcast. And one thing that's helped me throughout all my traumas throughout my life is my nanny used to tell me, it falls on the shoulders that can carry you. And it was her way of saying that I was well able, well capable. And that as unfortunate as it was, I was given these experiences and traumas to make me stronger, and because I was strong. And so are you. And although those things fall on your shoulders, you'll carry your baby in your heart forever. This podcast is dedicated to you and every infant ever lost. Keep moving forward. I'll see you again soon, if you're nosy enough.
Do you think you can handle it? Do you think you could? Do you think you could handle it?